Hey everybody, Kamari Ellis here, also known as the Finance Rebel slash Stock Market Rebel. I love to cover all things money, all things wealth, especially stock and investments. Today I got a question, or actually a couple of days ago, I got a question about how beginner investor can begin to analyze ETFs to see if they're good or not. Um, so I told the person I would do a video for them to help them out in their investment journey. So real quick, we're going to talk about what an ETF is, types of ETFs, and how you should look up ETFs. Now, before I go any further, what's an ETF, right? ETF is an exchange traded fund. An exchange traded fund is basically like a basket of investments. It could be stock, it could be commodities, it could be currencies, just about any asset classes out there you can put in there. Um, you can have currencies, the yen, the euro, pound, the franc, things like that. You can invest in all of these. ETFs trade like stocks, so they have great liquidity. They are the cousin of the mutual fund. Probably a lot of you have seen those in many of your 401k plans and some of the other plans some of the people out there pitch to you and encourage you to get into. But the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund is that ETF trades just like a stock, right? A mutual fund, you can only get in or get out usually at 6 o'clock that day. Also, ETFs are way, way, way cheaper than mutual funds. The fees are usually much, much lower. That's why they become so popular over the years. You kind of got the best of both worlds because everybody likes mutual funds for their diversification because you can have many different stock companies in there or different types of things to spread your risk over there. Basically, not having all your eggs in one basket. Well, you can do that with an ETF too, except their fees are a lot lower than mutual funds. So that's why a lot of people like them. All right. So that's what an ETF is. Okay. Now let's talk about the different types of ETFs. All right. Remember I said you can invest in currency. So there are currency ETFs. You can invest, like I said, in the yen, the yuan, the Australian dollar, the Canadian loonie or the Canadian dollar, the Mexican peso. There are ETFs for all of these. Whereas though it makes it a little hard to actually invest individually into some of the currencies, especially carrying them overnight. Many people are using leverage, but with an ETF, you don't have to worry about any of that. Commodities, there are commodity ETFs, right? Gold, you could have gold in an ETF, all right? And that gold actually goes and buys gold and it's held in various vaults around the world. So that's another thing you can do. Silver is another one, right? It's a commodity, all right? You can have all stock ETFs, okay? You could have stock ETFs that cover, let's say, a country. You could have stock ETFs that cover a sector like finance or technology or real estate or biotech, things like that. So you can get a lot of different exposures. Just about anywhere there are stock or there's an investment, there's usually an ETF that's covering it. I mean, they're even talking about trying to get a cryptocurrency ETF going in full fledged. It's kind of one now, but it's not full fledged. But that's going to become a thing 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, if not sooner. If not sooner. All right. And so on here, I'm just going to show you that you can look up basically any ETF from the comfort of your phone. Everybody's got a smartphone these days. I've got an iPhone. So what I did was I went over to Yahoo Finance. That's an app I have that can give you data on just about any publicly traded investment that's out there, especially ETFs. So here we're going to look at a couple of different ETFs. So right here, we're on Yahoo Finance and we're looking at my app and we're looking at an ETF called SPY, and this ETF covers the S&P 500. But here we're just looking at all the stats, some of the data and the stats that it holds on each one of the ETFs. We'll go through about 3 of them. So it'll show what the price is of that ETF trading on the market right now, what the range was or is, what the yield is. Right here I'm looking at the top holdings. We have Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Berkshire, B shares, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Alphabet Class C, Alphabet A, and Exxon. Those are the biggest. And it's ETF, and those are the biggest in the S&P 500. You can also look at the chart, looking at different things. You can look at different intervals. So you can change how it's represented. Right now, I'm going to a month. So each one of these bars, or what they call candlesticks, represents a month worth of data. You can also change it over to different types of graphical representations as well. And now I'm just looking at, this is the technology. This is the technology ETF. Again, a lot of the same data. The price, or the close that yesterday would have opened at today. The 52-week range, basically the highest it was in 52 weeks, and the lowest the price it was in 52 weeks. What the average volume has been over the last 3 months. How much overall assets are there. So it's a cool app. It's great entry level data and analysis that you can get your hands on to really easy just to see. So here again, we have the top holdings: Microsoft, Apple, Visa. Visa is a tech company. It's not a financial. It can be classified as financials by some, but you can get all the data. And again, here's the chart. So I would encourage everybody to get it and download it and just start playing with it. Just start putting in various ticker symbols. Okay, so we've looked at a couple of different ETFs on the Yahoo Finance app. Now, if you wanted to invest in any of these ETFs, right, you got to figure out what's good and what's bad. All right, here's a couple of things I want everybody to avoid when it comes to ETF investing. I usually do not invest in any ETFs that have less than $5 million in assets and that have less than 50,000. Have a volume of 50,000 or less, because the biggest thing is about liquidity. Usually some of these smaller ETFs don't have a lot of liquidity. Now, some of your ETF sponsors will say they can make liquidity, they can do it, they can. But what happens a lot of times is in the market, because I manage these professionally at institutional shops, sometimes we're going into what we call a thin market, where there's not a lot of volume, and it's hard to get pricing, hard to get a good price, or you'll get wild price swings and you're trying to fill your order. All right. So just be careful that. And I know the question about ETFs also was, how can you research them? How can you figure out which ones are good, which ones are bad? Well, that last tip kind of tells you which ones you should kind of stay away from. But you can do fundamental analysis on ETFs. I mean, basically, they're an aggregate of everything that's in their bucket, right? I showed you, the S&P 500, where you had Exxon, Microsoft, Apple. So you can kind of lump them all up and look at some of their numbers together. You could also say, well, you know what? I think the U.S. economy is going to continue to do good, so I want to buy a broad market ETF, like an SPY or a DIA, which covers the Dow Jones. Or you might say, you know what? I think biotech's going to do good. I think pharma is going to do good. By the way, a lot of the pharma stocks are under healthcare. But, I think banks are going to do good. So instead of you going through and evaluating, let's say, a Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, you can say I have an overall feeling that in the United States, banking is going to do well. So I want to buy the ETF that covers banking. Right. But you could also look at some of these underlying companies and say, you know what? Their balance sheets are a little wacky. They've got a lot of debt. Now, that's not necessarily the case now with the banks, because they've been doing a lot of stress testing, a lot of liquidity testing. But the overall premise is you can start to look at some of these macro issues and you can make investment decisions from them, or the 50,000 foot decisions, or 50,000 foot issues, and make decisions from there. All right. I mean, the other way you can do some analysis is called technical analysis, is when, you see the guys with the charts and the funny little symbols and up and down waves. Like, you might have seen me use them. I do technical and fundamental analysis when I'm doing investments. And you can look at that one easy indicator a lot of people use. I don't necessarily use it, but a lot of people use it, is moving averages. So you can have a 20-day moving average, and you can have a 50-day moving average, and you can have a 100-day moving average, right? And so let's say you got a 20-day moving average and a 50-day moving average. If you see the 20-day moving average cross underneath or below the 50-day moving average, that could be a sign that things are going bad, all right? If you see the 20-day moving average moving above the 50-day moving average, that could be a sign that things are going good and that, new trends are being established either up or down, which can be good or bad for you. But again, you have to do your analysis. You have to do your homework. Investing is one of those things that you have to live, eat, and breathe to really get a mastery of it. But it's not as hard as many people think, right? A lot of y'all follow me in my time and my stories, and you see I run a lot. Well, I don't really like to run. I run because it's good for weight loss. It's good for overall health and cardio. But I'm not going to be expected to run like Jesse Owens because I haven't put that same level of time, commitment, and effort into my running as a Jesse Owens or Jackie Joyner Kersee or Usain Bolt is doing. That takes a lot of commitment. Now, you don't have to be Olympic to be a good investor, though. Just keep that in mind. The real thing is you have to be committed and you have to be dedicated to it. But it's easy to learn. And once you get your system down, you'll be able to make good investment decisions overall. But that's all I got today for anybody that's beginning to invest in ETFs. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me or, just DM me. All right. I'll see everybody later. You all have a great day.